Hi, my name is Liz, and I'm one of the founding members of the Let's Talk About It conference, an Atlanta-based conference led by experts in queer and trans clinical care. The conference, taking place on March 14th and 15th and offered in person and virtually, was born from our experiences with continuing education about working with queer and trans folks. As affirming clinicians, we often left these spaces wanting more. Topics covered include ethics and ethical liberation, parenting and non-monogamy, and more. To register, please visit letstalkaboutitcon.com, and we hope to see you there.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Telewellness Hub podcast. I'm Marta Hamilton, your host, and today we get to speak with a repeat guest. If you haven't listened, on June 27th, 2023, I spoke with our guest today, Anna Marcela Rodriguez, and we get to speak to her again today. For those who are listening for the first time, she's a licensed marriage family therapist. She has her group practice, Therapy Works Counseling, around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where her all Hispanic and bilingual group serves children, teenagers, adults, couples, and families in Spanish and English. She's trained in EMDR, has extensive experience in trauma, grief, infidelity, relationship conflicts, anxiety, and depression. And her focus has always been in the mental health in the Hispanic community, which has made her one of the strongest leaders and advocates for mental health in this community. And I loved getting to talk to her about that last time. And she has even been invited as a keynote speaker for the Adolescent Symposium, the annual conference, the TAMFT annual conference, the SMU Hispanic Summit, the TWU BIPOC panel, the UNT multicultural panel, different ISDs across the Metroplex in the Dallas area, among other companies that are interested in learning about mental health in the Hispanic community. And she's currently serving as an expert in international TV networks such as Univision, Telemundo, and Estrella TV. So it is an honor that you get to be here with us today and share with us, our listeners on the Telewellness Hub podcast, a little bit about your wisdom, your expertise. So thank you for coming back on.
Thank you so much for inviting me once again. I love being in your space and with your community, and I hope to share something that is valuable for all the people that are listening to us.
Oh, I'm sure you will, because it was really on my end. I get to see where people are downloading from, and Anna's episode last time, your episode, it's all over the globe, the world. So it's really neat to see, just these conversations, how they can make an impact in not just our immediate communities. And, we're both in Texas. I don't always get to interview people who are in the same state as me, but, not just in our immediate communities or even state level, but nationwide and even beyond. So I'm so grateful to talk to you a little bit today about the mental health community. Last time the episode was called Empowering Healthier and Happier Lives, Hispanic Mental Health. And today I want to dive into a little bit about your training and your experience, but especially now your visibility and the I don't want to say relentless, but just your dedicated commitment to bringing up important topics about Hispanic mental health to many communities, and even especially in the media. So you're an expert in TV networks, and I want to talk about that. But first, why do you do the wellness work that you do?
I do it because it's dear to my heart. I love being a therapist, helping people, but my journey started with me looking for help, right? I was young teenage girl the first time that I visited psychologist in Mexico, where I was born and raised. And I felt in love with that space that my therapist provided for me. The guidance, the reassurance, the validation. I felt that I had someone in my corner where I didn't have that outside that room. So that was my first time that I have this meeting with therapy, right? My first glance at the therapy world. I was 13 back then, and my parents were divorcing. We have a lot of chaos in my family. And it was a strong foundation, the therapy that I was provided. And then fast forward to when I had to make a decision of what I want to study, I knew it. I knew it that I want to become a therapist as well. And then I had to move to the US because of my husband's work. And I knew I wanted to continue to do this work. But first, I wanted to find my own therapist, and it was very difficult back then. So, 10 years ago, there weren't as many bilingual, multicultural, native Spanish clinicians, at least in Texas. Nowadays, we have found that that's changing. We have more variety, more representation, but 10 years ago, it was very difficult. So I wanted to be that person for someone like me. And that's how my journey started. When I graduated and I did my internship, I was in Frisco ISD for a bit in the counseling area. And then I ventured into private practice, and I saw that it was a great need and that people were looking for people like them where they can trust. And I was reminded of myself when I was 13, and I needed that help, and I got it. So I wanted to be that, and I became that. And I feel much more comfortable speaking Spanish. I know my culture, so for me it was something very natural. It's like this is me. Like this is Ana Marcela. Um I speak like my clients will tell you, like I'm very direct in the way that I do therapy. I think that's part of my personality, part of my culture. So I think we have a very strong rapport, a very strong sense of connection, which it's that it is what makes the difference. No, and now we know with studies that support this, that what truly makes a change and a difference in counseling successful is this connection with your therapist. And I think there's no other way that you will have a connection with someone other than being yourself. And I am myself in the therapy room, and I give that to my clients. And and since then, it has been truly my mission to help as many people as we can. And it at first it was just me, and I knew that on my own I could just reach so many people. And that's how I start thinking, okay, what if I get to know other clinicians like me, and I invite them to join me in this mission. And fast forward to today, we are 30 plus native Spanish speakers.
Oh, that's incredible. Congratulations. Yes.
Thank you in our practice. And what holds us together is that our passion and mission to help our community in in Texas, in the DFW specifically, where we have some locations. But we want to provide that, and we know, and I know firsthand that dealing with the mental health issue, um, it can get very long. You can be and get very lonely. So having that support and someone that understands you um, makes a difference.
Yeah, I love that you share your story because I think oftentimes I know we get training and we're passionate about education, but there when there's your heart and this intention to connect, and especially, stories like yours where you had such an empowering experience yourself with therapy and wanting to be that light for someone else, it really shows in the passion as a motivator and purpose in our work. So I think that's wonderful. I want to dive in. We talked about you see clients all over Texas. I remember that, which is important because, yes, I think there's more availability for clinicians that we feel to find a therapist who might understand us or our culture or be able to speak in our native language. Like our feelings, our thoughts come out naturally sometimes in our dominant language. So being able to even have that option is huge in therapy. So you can be yourself and navigate all of that. But I wonder too, there's a lot of areas in Texas that maybe don't have access. So I think it's wonderful that you're creating online options for them and and a sense of community, even virtually, right? I think that's something important. And I want to dive into the work that you're doing for the Hispanic community through media because I right now there's a lot about immigration specifically in the media. And I'm wondering, um, this is veering a little bit away from the clinical work, but just I'm curious about your experience as an expert, in these networks such as Univision and Telemundo. Has it influenced your understanding of the portrayal of immigration in the media with your clinical background and the clients that you see that might be dealing with stressors directly related to immigration?
Yes, I mean, just to tell you a little bit more about me, I love the cameras. Like I love public speaking, and I think if my first option wasn't being a psychotherapist, I think I will be in some novela or something. Like I
Yeah.
love the media, and so for me, it's like two dreams in one that have come true to me. It feels very natural for me to be in front of cameras or recording and all of these things. And I also love writing. So we also do a lot of blogs, and I am one of the therapists that participates the most in our blogs, and I write in a variety of topics on mental health. And I think people like that, and I appreciate and that they like what I put out into the world. And in the media, to answer your question, I think it makes it more real because you are experiencing and knowing about stories that are happening in the present moment and in the mass. It's not only in our micro place in DFW. These are stories that happen in the world. So having an opinion from the psychology world into what's happening, I think it has been a great honor for me to put my expertise into that. It has also forced me to be always researching and learning, because before I talk about a specific topic or give my opinion on a news that is happening, I make my research, right? And I have to have an understanding. Um, so I try to be well informed of the message that I'm giving. What happened is usually Univision or Estrella TV or Telemundo will contact me, like, Marcela, can you give us your expert opinion on this news that is happening? And it is a full-time job. Like I have it to do it. Like at that moment, they don't have a lot of time because the news is airing the same days. Usually it's just like 1 hour ahead of the time that I'm recording, or sometimes I do it live. And that's how it has been working. And it started years ago, but now it's more like a full-time job that I do. I record probably like five news per week, sometimes more.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, you're really advocating then for and having a voice for our community. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it is something that I really enjoy. As I said, I have recorded when I'm on vacations. I have stopped in the middle of the road driving to some places to record for the news. I had recorded. I remember one that it was my birthday, and I was like makeup and everything, and the reporter is like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm outside my birthday party, like recording for you." So I have done it like everywhere, and it is. I mean, if you like it, like I do,
Right.
right? It is very nice, and it is also very nice when people will recognize you, right, in the community, like, oh, I have
Mhm.
seen you in the news, and I think it also builds trust because
Yeah.
um they start seeing me sometimes more frequently, and they listen to the message that I have given and the advices or my opinion on certain topics, and that builds trust, and
Yeah.
that makes them sometimes want to make an appointment with me or our group.
Yes, no, absolutely. Credibility and approachability, right? Because I think there could be stigma, but if, wow, like here's my therapist speaking, I get to see them on my TV, and here she is talking about a topic and has done research, and it's credible, and it's conversational, right? When you're in the media. And I think that creates it breaks down barriers, I'm sure, to like, okay, therapy is like this thing that happens. I have like, it's secretive, but like, no, here you are as a therapist speaking out to the world, and it being celebrated for you as an expert. I think that's incredible for also just the stigma portion in the mental health community. I I wonder from the opposite side when it comes to, you're such an advocate for mental health in the Hispanic community. What role do you believe that media can play in shaping perceptions and fears related to immigration? And how do you think this impacts mental health?
Well, I think sometimes the media, I mean, it's part of their job to sell a news, right?
Yeah.
To sell the news, to make it where people want to engage and watch the news. Sometimes
Okay.
they inflate some news.
Mhm.
Sometimes they are very gory, right? Or like
Yeah.
and sometimes there's no need to do that, but I understand that also it's part of their business. Like we need
Right.
to understand that these TV networks and these news networks are a business, and that sometimes they cross these lines, um that for me I want to be perceived as like I'm I'm just asked to give my expert opinion on certain topics. It's not necessarily that I'm okay with how they present certain news, or that I'm okay on showcasing, certain images or like that. And that's, I think, one of the most difficult parts. Also, sometimes they have asked me to give my personal or my professional opinion, because it's every time my professional opinion, but sometimes with the tendency of like this way, and I have to set like firm boundaries on that way, because I know that I have an ethical and moral obligation to my license, that I uphold, and to my community. So
Right.
I have had say no to some occasions. Usually, these networks that I work with, and the news programs that I work with, and the programs, they have already they already know me, and they know my standards,
Right.
and they are very respectful of that. I work a lot with certain reporters, and we have had now we have a relationship, so they know me and
Right.
respect me.
It sounds like that you have an established relationship with them. And I'm sure that that is something to be conscious of the professional versus personal perspective or opinion, but keeping it really professional and giving your expert opinion, an expert opinion, not like your emotional opinion or your personal opinion. I just love how I before I hit record, I mentioned that I have seen Anna Marcela since her first recording. I've been seeing her in different media sources myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, there she is. Like how amazing. I love that. And I love that you're making an effort to spread awareness, to advocate, and also connect. Like even now as colleagues for this podcast. So I know you're starting to do networking, some conferences, connecting. How are you helping to advocate as a group with other clinicians, with other mental health? Because I think that's a big part of advocacy is community. I think there's power in that. And I hear you really making an effort to do that, to amplify voices and to come together. Tell me a little bit about that work.
Yeah, so we have been doing the BIPOC networking and CU event in the DFW area since last year. So this is our second year where we connect with mental health people from the BIPOC community or allies of the BIPOC community. And we network, we have speakers on topics of cultural diversity, and I think it has been great because we cannot do this alone. There's the Hispanic community in the US is the majority minority community. We are I think last time that I checked, I don't know, it was around like 30 million of Hispanics. So that's a huge number. And that's a lot of people to serve. And my group practice, we're 30. So we will not be able to serve, like, not even, the
All the millions of people. Yes.
exactly. So I'm always looking for other clinicians, other people interested in the mental health to help our community because there's a lot of need. I just today I was recording 2 podcasts with some lawyers. I have a very good relationship with lawyers around the area because of the psychological evaluation for immigrations that we do. And we were talking about the impact of mental health in immigrants that are doing their immigration process. We were talking about the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, and how Hispanics, for example, are the community that it is at most at risk in fear of deportation, of domestic violence, of being re-traumatized because of their legal status. And how can we bridge that? And in those cases, it's not just mental health clinicians. We also need from other areas like lawyers, we need educators,
Physicians,
yeah,
education, teachers, serving the children.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is part of our mission, and with the BIPOC networking and CU event that we do, it's something very tangible of like, here it is part of our mission, and this is how we are contributing to make this mission bigger, right? We're more people. We need more hands.
Yeah, no, I'm so grateful that you're willing to come back on and talk on this. I think even on a greater scale, your mission, and for those listening, maybe you're an ally, maybe you want to be a part of this of this reinforcement and empowerment and change. Yeah, and I wonder what's the best way for people to get connected with you.
The best way to connect with me is through our webpage, which is therapyworkscounseling.com. We're also on Facebook. We go by Therapy Works Counseling, Instagram, Therapy Works Anna. If and my personal email is Marcela at therapyworkscounseling.com. Um, I usually answer like really fast. I'm very very good with communication. So that if you ever have a question, a comment, or in some way that we or I can help, I will surely do that.
I love that. Before I hit record, I mentioned that I moved from El Paso now to San Antonio, and I'm like, I'm close enough that tell me real quick about the networking events in case someone wants to go join. How often is that on your website?
Yes, it is in our website, but we do it the second Friday of every month. So, yeah, the second Friday of every month, we do it in a venue in Grapevine. We have all the information there. We provide a CEU for multicultural, the CEUs that we need now for multicultural, we provide that. We have expert speakers in the subject that they will talk. And we have a lot of mental health clinicians from the BICA community or allies that want to learn more and want to share time with us, networking and talking about their practices or what they're doing. And it's amazing. It's an amazing time also to socialize, right? And sometimes we're just doing our thing in our little space, and we do not know about what others are doing, or how can we as a community do more for other communities. So this is the place to do that.
I love that because there's so much to learn from each other, and there's so much power in connection. And it can be so rewarding even with our own work. So I'm grateful for the time you took to connect with me and with our listeners. And Ana Marcela, thank you so much for being a part of our wellness journey.
Thank you so much for inviting me once again. It has been a pleasure, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.